The loan papers were already signed. At least, that's what everyone in the room believed. My son smiled. His wife uncapped a pen and slid it across the dining table. There, just one signature. My two grandchildren sat on the living room carpet coloring dinosaurs. The television played cartoons loud enough to hide adult conversations, or so my son thought. I didn't touch the pen. Instead, I slowly turned the first page. Then the second, then the third. The room became strangely quiet. Finally, I asked one question. Did you really think I wouldn't read this? The smile disappeared from my son's face. It's just paperwork. No, it's a personal guarantee. His wife rolled her eyes. Same thing. I carefully closed the folder. I'm not signing. Nobody raised their voice. Not yet. My son leaned back in his chair. You didn't even finish reading. I already found the lie. He stared at me. What lie? You told me this was only a witness signature. It isn't. You want me responsible for almost $700,000. Silence. His wife sighed dramatically. Oh my God, listen to him. You'd think we were stealing his house. I stood. I'll see the kids another day. My grandson looked up from his coloring book. Grandpa, are you leaving already? I forced a smile. I'll be back soon, buddy. I reached for my jacket. Then, I heard the deadbolt lock. Click. I slowly turned around. My son was standing between me and the front door, his hand still resting on the lock. We're not finished. I looked at him. I am. He didn't move. Neither did I. For several long seconds, nobody spoke. His wife calmly picked up the pen again. Sign it. You know you'll cave eventually. I almost laughed. You really planned this. She smiled. We planned today. Not the conversation, the entire day. The flooded laundry room. The phone call asking for help. Even the grandchildren being home. Every minute had been arranged before I ever pulled into the driveway. I suddenly realized I hadn't been invited. I'd been cornered. I looked directly at my son. When did asking your father become trapping your father? His jaw tightened. When you stopped acting like one. Those words landed harder than any punch. I raised my keys. I'm leaving. He stepped closer. No. I stepped around the dining chair. He stepped with me. The room suddenly felt much smaller. The kids stopped coloring. Even they knew something had changed. I quietly said one sentence. If you touch me, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. He laughed. It wasn't the laugh of the little boy I raised. It was the laugh of a man who believed I was too old to fight back. He reached for my shoulder. I pushed his hand away. For one brief second, we simply stared at each other. Then his wife smirked and said, "He's bluffing." And my own son made the biggest mistake of his life. He shoved me, not hard enough to knock me down, hard enough to make a point. You're not leaving. I looked from his face to the locked front door, then toward the children. My grandson had quietly pulled his little sister behind him. He couldn't have been more than 8, yet somehow he already understood adults better than adults understood themselves. I spoke calmly. Unlock the door. No, Travis. This ends now. No, it ends when you sign. Monica walked over and slid the folder back across the table. Your pension covers the payments if anything goes wrong. I stared at her. So you've already discussed my retirement income. She smiled proudly. We discussed everything, everything. That word echoed in my head. They hadn't just planned today. They'd planned my future. I picked up the agreement again, not because I intended to sign it, because I wanted to know exactly how far they'd gone. The first page listed the loan amount, $684,000. The second page named the borrower, not Travis, his newly formed company, a company barely 4 months old, no assets, no operating history. The third page caught my attention, collateral. I read the line twice, then a third time. Slowly, my blood turned cold. I looked directly at Travis. You pledged the house. He blinked. What? My house? You listed my home as the emergency recovery address for legal notices. It's just paperwork. No, it tells the bank exactly where they'll come looking when you default. We're not going to default. You don't know that. You can't. He slammed his palm onto the table. I'm trying to build something. I nodded. With my life, not yours. The children were no longer pretending to color. Emma quietly whispered to her brother, "Why is Daddy yelling?" He didn't answer. He simply held her hand. That image stayed with me. 2 little children trying to protect each other, while the adults forgot how. Monica suddenly walked toward the hallway. When she returned, she was carrying my winter coat. She tossed it onto the dining chair. "You aren't walking out. You either sign, or we sit here all night." I almost smiled. "You really believe time changes my answer? It changes everyone's answer." "No, it changes weak people's answers." Her smile disappeared. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone. Travis noticed immediately. "Who are you calling? The police?" His expression changed. "No." He stepped forward. I pressed the emergency call button anyway. Before the call connected, he grabbed my wrist hard. "Hang up." "No." He twisted my arm downward. Pain shot through my shoulder. "Travis, you're hurting me." His voice became louder. I said, "Hang up." The phone slipped from my hand. It crashed across the kitchen floor. The emergency operator's voice echoed faintly from the speaker. 911. "What is your emergency?" Nobody answered. Monica calmly walked over, picked up the phone, pressed end call, then placed it on the counter. She looked at me as though she'd just solved a minor inconvenience. No more games. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Not anger, not panic. Planning. Cold. Careful. Planning. I bent down to retrieve my keys. The moment I straightened, Travis grabbed my left forearm with both hands, one hand near my wrist, the other above my elbow. "Sign it." "No." He pulled harder. "I've sacrificed enough." I looked directly into his eyes. "No, I did." Those 5 words broke something inside him. Years of entitlement, years of excuses, years of believing everything I owned would eventually become his. All collided at once. His face twisted with rage. "You think I owe you? I know you do." The room exploded. He shoved me backward. I stumbled into the corner of the dining table. Pain shot through my hip. I tried to steady myself. Instead, he lunged again, this time grabbing my arm, trying to drag me back toward the paperwork. I pulled away. There was a loud crack. For one impossible second, neither of us moved. Then my left arm collapsed beneath me. The pain was so overwhelming, I couldn't even scream. I simply stared. The bone had snapped cleanly below the elbow. My granddaughter burst into tears. My grandson shouted, "Dad, what did you do?" Travis stumbled backward. His face turned white. I didn't." Monica looked down at my arm, then at the unsigned papers. She laughed, a short, cruel laugh. "If one broken arm won't make him sign," she shrugged, "break the other one too." This time, nobody mistook it for a joke, not even Travis. He stared at his wife, as though he were seeing her for the first time. Then, the doorbell rang once, twice, then someone outside began pounding on the front door. A voice shouted, "Mr. Bennett, are you all right in there?" My neighbor, Mr. Alvarez, he'd heard everything, and within the next 60 seconds, the secret Travis and Monica thought they could contain inside their house would become a criminal investigation. The pounding on the front door didn't stop. "Mr. Bennett, open the door!" Travis looked at Monica for the first time that afternoon. Neither of them had a plan. Blood dripped steadily from my fingertips onto the hardwood floor. My left arm hung uselessly against my side. Every heartbeat sent another wave of pain through my body. I forced myself to speak. "Unlock the door." Nobody moved. Then my grandson did. Without saying a word, 8-year-old Noah walked to the entrance, reached up, unlocked the deadbolt. The front door flew open. Mr. Alvarez rushed inside. The moment he saw me, he froze. "Oh my God!" His eyes dropped to my arm, then to the unsigned loan papers scattered across the dining table, then to Travis. "What happened?" Nobody answered. Mr. Alvarez pulled out his phone. "I'm calling 911. Monica stepped forward. "That's not necessary." He didn't even look at her. "Yes, it is." 3 police officers arrived before the ambulance. Officer Dana Reeves entered first. One look at my arm, and she immediately called for paramedics to hurry inside. She knelt beside me. "Sir, can you tell me what happened?" I looked directly at my son. He couldn't meet my eyes. "Finally," I answered. "My son wouldn't let me leave." Officer Reeves looked at Travis. "Is that true?" He hesitated. That hesitation lasted less than 3 seconds. It was enough. Police officers noticed silence, because innocent people usually answer immediately. Guilty people calculate. The paramedics carefully placed my arm into a temporary splint. Every movement felt like fire. One medic quietly whispered to the other, "Definitely displaced. We'll need orthopedic surgery." As they lifted me onto the stretcher, My granddaughter suddenly ran toward me. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. "Grandpa, I'm sorry Daddy hurt you." The entire room became silent. Officer Reeves slowly turned toward Travis. "You hurt Grandpa?" The little girl nodded. "I told Daddy to stop." No lawyer, no explanation, no excuse could erase those 9 words. Children don't rehearse statements, they simply tell the truth. At the hospital, the surgeon confirmed what I already suspected. 2 fractures, 1 shattered elbow, emergency surgery, a steel plate, 8 screws, nearly 5 hours in the operating room. When I finally woke up, Officer Reeves was waiting beside my bed. She held a small evidence bag. Inside were the loan documents. "We searched the house." She paused. "We also found something else." She placed a thin notebook beside the bed. It belonged to Monica, a planner, neatly organized, colored-coded. She opened it. There, written 2 weeks before the incident, in Monica's own handwriting, "Get Harold to sign before month end. Don't let him leave until it's done." Officer Reeves turned another page, a checklist. "Crescapt, invite him over. Crescapt kids, stay home. Etkel Travis takes afternoon off. Crescapt loan folder ready. Crescapt lock front door." I closed my eyes. It wasn't an argument. It had been a plan, every minute, every word, every movement, designed before I ever walked into that house. Officer Reeves quietly said, "The district attorney has already reviewed the notebook. They're treating this as more than assault." 3 days later, detectives interviewed Noah. They used a child advocate, a room filled with toys instead of desks, no uniforms, no pressure, just simple questions. His answers never changed. Daddy grabbed Grandpa. Grandpa wanted to leave. Mom locked the door. Grandpa kept saying no. No contradictions, no coaching, just truth. News spread quickly, not through television, through people. Neighbors bought cons from the children's school, Travis's employer, Monica's social circle. Within a week, the company Travis wanted me to guarantee canceled its partnership agreement. Not because I asked them to, because they had their own ethics policy. A business under criminal investigation wasn't someone they wanted representing their brand. His bank froze the loan application. Agon. Not because I called anyone, because fraud investigators requested copies of the paperwork. Everything Travis had tried to build started collapsing under the weight of his own choices. One afternoon, Officer Reeves returned to my hospital room. "You have visitors. I don't want to see Travis. It's not him." She stepped aside. Noah walked in first, holding his little sister's hand. Behind them, a woman I'd never met. "I'm Rebecca. I'm the children's court-appointed counselor." She smiled gently. "The kids asked if they could see you." Noah climbed carefully onto the chair beside my bed. "I'm sorry I couldn't stop, Dad." I felt my throat tighten. "You already did." He looked confused. "You unlocked the door. You saved me." His eyes filled with tears. I was scared. So was I. Then he reached into his backpack. "I made this." It was a crayon drawing. A little house, a grandfather, 2 children holding his hands. No Travis, no Monica. Across the top, in crooked blue letters, he had written, "Sace with Grandpa," smiled for the first time since my arm broke. Because in the middle of everything that had been destroyed, one little boy had reminded me something priceless had survived, the truth. But neither Travis nor Monica had any idea what investigators had just uncovered inside that planner. And when those findings were presented in court, their entire defense would collapse before either of them said a single word. The courthouse was standing room only, not because the case had become famous, because everyone who knew Travis wanted to understand one thing. How does a son break his own father's arm over a signature? I sat in the front row. My arm was still in a rigid brace. 8 screws held the bones together. The doctor had already warned me. "You'll never have full strength again." I accepted that. Some injuries become part of your story. Travis entered first. Gray suit, no confidence left. He looked thinner than I remembered. Monica followed. She still carried herself as though she were the smartest person in the room. That lasted exactly 12 minutes, because the prosecutor didn't begin with witnesses. He began with Monica's planner. Every page appeared on the courtroom screen. Color-coded notes, schedules, checklists, then the final entry. "Lock front door before discussing papers." The prosecutor looked toward the jury. This wasn't an argument. This was preparation. Monica's attorney stood. It's only a personal planner. It proves nothing. The prosecutor nodded. I agree. By itself, it doesn't. Then he smiled slightly. So let's add everything else. He played the 911 recording, the operator repeatedly asking, "What is your emergency?" Then, my voice shouting, "Let me leave," followed by Travis yelling, "You're signing today." Then the loud crack, my granddaughter screaming, and Monica's unmistakable voice. If one broken arm won't make him sign, break the other one too. The courtroom became so quiet, you could hear someone crying in the gallery. It wasn't me, it wasn't the jury, it was Monica. For the first time, she realized everyone had heard exactly who she was. Then came Noah's recorded forensic interview. The judge had approved it because of his age. The screen showed an 8-year-old boy sitting in a room filled with stuffed animals. The interviewer asked softly, "What happened to Grandpa?" Noah answered immediately. Dad locked the door. Grandpa said, "No." Dad grabbed him. The interviewer asked, "Did anyone tell you what to say today?" "No. My mommy said never tell people what happened." Every attorney in the courtroom stopped writing. The prosecutor quietly asked the judge to replay that sentence. It sounded even worse the second time. "My mommy said never tell people what happened." The defense collapsed, not because of one piece of evidence, because every piece fit perfectly. The planner, the 911 recording, the neighbors, the police officers, the doctors, the children. Every witness told the same story, no contradictions, no confusion. Only one truth. 3 days later, the verdict was delivered. Travis was found guilty of aggravated assault, unlawful imprisonment, and attempted coercion. Monica was convicted of conspiracy, witness intimidation, and unlawful imprisonment. Neither received a slap on the wrist. The judge looked directly at Travis before announcing the sentence. "I've sentenced violent strangers. I've sentenced career criminals. But there is something uniquely disturbing about a son using violence to force his elderly father into financial ruin." He paused. "You didn't lose control. You exercised control. That is far more dangerous." As deputies escorted them away, Travis finally looked at me. "Dad," I stopped walking. He struggled against the handcuffs. "I'm sorry. I was desperate." I looked at him for a long moment, then quietly answered, "No, you were greedy. Desperate people ask. Greedy people trap." Those were the last words I spoke to him inside a courtroom. Life afterward wasn't easy. Physical therapy lasted almost a year. Some mornings, I couldn't button my own shirt. Other days, holding a coffee mug hurt. The pain never completely disappeared. Neither did the memories. But something unexpected happened. Family court contacted me, not about Travis, about Noah and Emma. Because both children had witnessed serious domestic violence, the judge wanted to know whether I was willing to become their legal guardian. I didn't answer immediately. I asked one question: "What do the children want?" The social worker smiled. They already answered. She handed me 2 drawings. Noah had drawn this picture he'd made at the hospital. A little house, 2 children, 1 grandfather. Emma had drawn something different. A broken arm wrapped in a blue cast. Next to it, a tiny heart. Underneath she had written in uneven letters, "Grandpa's home is safe." I cried harder than I had when my arm broke. Not because I was sad, because despite everything they'd witnessed, those children still believed home could exist. 6 months later, the judge signed the guardianship order. No cameras, no applause, just paperwork. The kind of paperwork built on protection, not exploitation. The first night they moved into my house, Noah walked into the garage. He looked around at the old woodworking tools. "Can we build something together?" I smiled. "What do you want to build?" He thought for a moment. "A really strong front door." I laughed quietly. "Why a front door?" He looked at me with complete honesty. "So nobody can ever lock us inside again." We built it together, solid oak, heavy steel hinges, the strongest door I'd ever made. Not because we were afraid, because every child deserves to know they can always leave a place that stops feeling safe. People sometimes ask whether losing the use of my arm was the worst thing my son took from me. It wasn't. The worst thing he tried to steal was my freedom. He failed me because bones heal slowly, truth lasts forever, and the only papers I ever signed that year were the ones giving 2 frightened children the safe home they deserved all along.